Good day guys, my name is Holas in the Fit and welcome back to another tutorial on MTS 105. And in this tutorial we're going to be covering shortcuts to inequalities. Yeah, so let's get started. Welcome back. Firstly, let's talk of the rules because the understanding to the shortcut is based on the real knowledge. So let's talk about the rules of inequalities because everything in mathematics basically has rules. If you understand how the rules works, then you understand how the whole thing works itself. So let's quickly talk of the rules. Well, it isn't like this in mathematics. Like, isn't it not that there's rules like lots of indices? No, but it's something I just came up with, at least so that we guys will understand better. So, rules of inequality. Now, let's take, for example, A is, you know that it is inequality, so it will be this sign. Instead of it being equal to, it is going to be an inequality sign, like less than, greater than, and the likes. Okay, now we want to see what happens to A and B if there's any change in this relationship, if anything happens to A and B. Now A, if we add, let's bring in a foreign object. If we add C to A and B, does it change the inequality sign? It doesn't. I won't waste much time. Let's just go straight to the point. It doesn't change the inequality sign. And let's quickly check that out. 1 is less than 3, right? Let's add 2. And let's add 2. This place is 3, this place is 5. It is still less. It doesn't change anything. Okay, that's 1. 2. What if we subtract? What if it is subtraction instead? What if we subtracted? It actually doesn't still change the inequality sign. The inequality sign remains the same whether you add, whether you subtract from both sides. It still remains the same. Now what if you multiplied? Does the inequality sign stay the same? Now let's try it. 1 is less than 3, right? Let's multiply 5. 5 times 5 times 5. This is 5. This is 15. It is still less. So it doesn't change the inequality sign. Now what if we divided? Division doesn't still change the inequality sign. Now that begs the question, what actually changes the inequality sign? It's actually very simple. The inequality sign only changes when you multiply a negative number or you divide through by a negative number. So let's take, for example, 1 is less than 3. By the time you multiply by -2, then this becomes -2, this becomes -6. Now we can see that 2 is actually greater, -2 is actually greater than -6. So the only time inequality sign changes is when you multiply through or you divide through with a negative number. So this one changes instead, this one changes instead to greater than, and this one also changes to greater than by the time you divide through by the negative number. So I believe we've taken out the rules, so you should understand the rules behind all this changing of inequality signs and the likes. Okay, this one is out of it. Now let's go to the next, which is actually working. Like I said, I'm going to keep this tutorial basically shortcuts, but then we need to understand one or two so that we can understand the shortcuts. Okay. Now I'm picking a very simple question. You will get a question like this in inequalities. I guess you won't be told to prove anything in exam, but how would you see questions in exam? In your CBT exam, the question goes like something like this: x plus 3 is greater than 5. Though this one is actually simple. You might not even get something like this in your exam at all. It's simple, it's extremely simple. But then the understanding of this small one is what we will build on for the rest. Okay, now x plus 3 is greater than 5. Find x. So you are doing it just like the way you do normal equation. 5 minus 3. Now I am confident that this sign is not changing because I'm only subtracting minus 3 from both sides, isn't it? X plus 3 minus 3, 5 minus 3. So minus 3 is subtracting from both sides. So I'm sure that sign is not changing. It's greater than 2. And you can then draw it on a timeline. So that's just inequalities. But like I said, you won't get stuff like this in exam. So let's just go a little bit further. Now you have questions like the absolute value of 2 is less than 1. We are still trying to solve this in the normal way so you guys would understand the shortcuts. Now, in order to solve questions like this, well, there are two approaches to solving this. You can actually square both sides, or you simply, those are squaring both sides would make the problem much longer. But there's a short method to solving something like this. Absolute value of a number less than a number is, it means that number is less than the value less than 1. Negative value of that number is less than the number inside and is less than 1 at the same time. That's how you solve stuff like this. So 1 minus 1, you now separate this inequality because you have two of them in the same inequality. So minus 1 less than x minus 2, and at the same time x minus 2 is less than 1. You have it here. You can see this and you can see this. So 1 is less than minus x minus 2, and at the same time x minus 2 is less than 1. So the rest is now simply breaking the inequality sign. Now minus 1, by the time this comes here, it becomes plus 2. And we are sure that the sign doesn't change because we didn't multiply through by minus. Then here, this one goes here, becomes plus 2. And we are sure that this sign still isn't changing because we didn't multiply through by negative number. Then this one becomes 1 less than x, and at the same time x less than 3. So you can see 1 is less than x, and at the same time x is less than 3. This is the answer to this inequality. Now I'm going to treat a quadratic inequality so that I'm going to treat a quadratic inequality so we understand how to solve quadratic inequalities. Then after that, we'll now go into the shortcuts majorly. So picking a question on quadratic inequality. This is a question on quadratic inequality, and we're trying to solve this. And basically, we're going to solve it using the idea of quadratic equations. So now let's try to break this down. Let's see if we can factorize this. The middle number here is minus 1 and this is minus 2. Find two numbers, you multiply together, it gives you minus 2. You add or subtract, then it gives you minus 1. I guess that's minus 2 and 1. So x squared minus 2x plus x minus 2 less than 0. So since minus 2 and plus 1, by the time you add these two together, it gives you minus 1, and if you multiply them, it gives you minus 2. So that's the best answer for what we have here. So now let's further simplify this. x is common to these two sides. X is common. X minus 2 plus 1 is common to this place. X minus 2. Then we have x plus 1. X minus 2 less than 0. Now, from this point, it is going to be very different from what you already know. Because if it is an equation, if it is just normal equation, you can just say x equals to minus 1 and x equals to 2, isn't it? And that's the answer. But it doesn't stop just like that for inequalities. Now, there are two methods to solving it from this point, but I think I'm going to teach you the last one, because the last method actually is very easy to understand. The first one actually is brain draining, let me put it that way. So let's just take, so that I won't keep this video long, let me just stick to the short, the last one, the last method. So for the last method, you just quickly equate this one. So that means x here equals to minus 1, x here equals to 2, isn't it? We've quickly equated them. Now you're not going to draw a table with 3 columns. Then here you will say x is less than the last number here. X is less than the number that is the one that is less in these two. In the two values that you have, x is less than the one that is less in the two of them. The next one is now minus 1, that from that less value through to the highest value, the other value in these two. So it goes like, firstly, the one that is less, just say x is less than it, then pick the two values, just find their range, that is from the one that is less to the one that is greater. That's minus 1 less than x less than 2. And now this side, like you've guessed, should be greater than the one that is the highest, that is greater. Okay, now the reason for us doing this is just for us to be able to test this inequality, because they said the multiplication of these two must be less than 0. They must be less than 0. So that means if you're multiplying these two together, you must get anything minus downward like that. So we now want to test it using this table. Which range of values we give minus for this inequality? That's what we're actually doing here. So now firstly, we've picked this one, and the range of values here goes like minus 2, minus 3 downward, since it's less than minus 1. So that means it starts from minus 2 downward. So let's put minus 2 in this equation. And you have to do it mentally. You don't have to solve it. If you put minus 2 in this equation, minus 2 plus 1, this is minus 2 minus 2. This is minus 1, isn't it? And this is minus 4. If you multiply these two, it's going to give you plus. Since they said multiplication of these two must be less than 0, so if you multiply these two like this, after having put minus 2, if you multiply it, you get plus something something something. You don't just need that something, it's only the sign that we need here that we are dealing with. So we've already confirmed, and in order to confirm the more, you can decide to do something even much more. Again, like you can decide to go to the next value, minus 3. Put minus 3 here, you get minus 2. Put minus 3, you get minus 5. If you multiply, it's still plus. So anything below this minus 1, you get positive value, which is not what we need. We need something negative, since it must be less than 0. We don't need this. Now let's go to the next one. From minus 1 to 2, and from 1 to 1, from 0 to 1, 0 to 1 fits here, since they said it's less than, minus 1 is less than x less than 2. So that means x is greater than minus 1, x is less than 2 at the same time. And I hope you understand why I change this one to x is greater than minus 1. It's just like, say you're older than your younger brother. If you want to pick from the angle of your younger brother, you say your younger brother is younger than you. I hope you understand. So I've already said minus 1 here. Minus 1 is less than x. So it means x, by the time you want to switch it, take it from the angle of x. If minus 1 is less than x, it means x is greater than minus 1. I hope you understand that. So x must be greater than minus 1 at the same time less than 2. And the values that fit there are 0 and 1. So now let's put 0 and 1 inside this equation. Let's try 0 first. Put 0 here. This becomes, if you put 0, 0 plus 1, 0 minus 2, which is 1 times minus 2, which is minus 2. It is minus. Let's try the other one and see. Let's try, since we said it is 0 and 1, let's try 1. So 1 plus 1, 1 minus 2, this is 2, this is minus 1, still negative. By the time you multiply, it's still negative. Now let's go to this one, greater than 2. Greater than 2. So since we are talking of greater than 2, we are talking of 3, 4, 5 and the like. So let's try 3. Let's put it in this equation. 3 plus 1, then 3 minus 2. This is 4, this is 1. It is positive. If you multiply these two, you get a positive number. So this is the table that we need. Now, which of these conditions satisfies must be less than 0? It is this one in the middle. It is only this one. So the answer is minus 1 less than x less than 2. Now we have finally solved it. So imagine you have something like this in the exam and you have to solve all this. It's actually a pure waste of time. It's a pure waste of time. So how do we do this in exam? What is the shortcut? And this is the part you have been waiting for. So if you have waited this far, congratulations. I'm about to show you how to get the answers to inequalities very fast. Sometimes you might not even solve anything. Sometimes you might require to solve. So let's take a typical question. Okay guys, so welcome back. Now this is a typical question. How do you solve this in exam? And first and foremost, like I don't know if I had mentioned it in the previous video, the fact that you see some questions sometimes, it's not that you don't actually know how to solve it. The fact that time is already ticking places you on this tension and you cannot just solve anything. When you get to that point, or when you don't even know how to start solving in the first instance, like this one now, you might not even know how to start solving it in the first instance. If you are stuck at that kind of situation, or when you feel that if you start solving it will take too much of your time, the best thing you need to go for is the shortcuts. And shortcuts is just you picking the options and seeing if it can fulfill the conditions in the question. So that's exactly what we are going to do here. So this is a question: absolute value of 3 plus of x plus 3 less than 2. Firstly, what's the meaning of this absolute value? This thing, some of you might not know the meaning. It means the value. You're only picking the magnitude, you are not picking the direction with it. What I mean by that is, for example, let's assume x here is 7 minus 7. By the time you put minus 7 here, that's minus 7 plus 3, that's minus 4, isn't it? But this absolute value means you are only picking the value, absolute value. You're not picking the direction. You don't. You're not concerned if it is negative or if it is positive. All you need is just the value. So the absolute value of minus 4 is what? 4. The absolute value of plus 10 is 10. You need to know the value. That's the meaning. So what are they now trying to do here? whatever thing that x is and you put it here, what you only need is the absolute value. You don't need the sign. You don't need the sign, just the value alone. Now that absolute value of x plus 3 is less than 2. Find x. So if you have been following from the beginning of this video, you know how to solve this already. But then what if you meet questions like that and you can't even remember anything? Then let's stick to the shortcut. And this is how to do the shortcut. You're going to pick the options one after the other, and any of the options that fulfills this condition being less than 2 is the answer. Any of the options that fulfills this condition of being less than 2 is the answer. So let's start with A. You can quickly pen down, since this is in range, you can quickly pen it down. Remember that this one is also same as x is greater than minus 5 and x is less than minus 1. This one shouldn't be new to you guys again. Now x is greater than minus 5, that's minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, and it should be less than 1, so we cannot pick minus 1. So these are the values. Now let's try and see if we can fix them into this place. Let's start with 4. Minus 4 plus 3, that's minus 1. Now what's the absolute value of minus 1? It is 1, and 1 is definitely less than 2, isn't it? But you cannot just, because you have seen 1 here, it is inequality. Because you've seen 1 doesn't mean that 1 alone might be the answer. It's possible minus 3 cannot fulfill this condition, so you have to try it for everything there. So that's x plus 3 less than, absolute value of x plus 3 less than 2. Now let's put minus 3. Minus 3, that's minus 3 plus 3, that's 0. 0 is less than 2. Okay, this one still fulfills the condition. Now let's see if this last one will fulfill the condition, which is minus 2. Minus 2 plus 3, that's 1. 1 is less than 2, so it fulfills the condition. So everything in this place fulfills the condition. That means the answer is A. It's as simple as that. So in order to confirm, let's just try the remaining. B. So basically I solved this one. If we take out the time of me talking and trying to explain the method, basically you've solved this in the space of seconds, maybe 10 seconds or so. So let's try and see these other ones. If some of them are also fulfill the condition that we don't even know of. So x is greater than 5. Let's put 5 here. Greater than 5, that's like 6, 7 and the like. So let's put 6. 6 plus 3 is not, it's not even anywhere close to being less than 2. So this is not the answer. Now this one, its range of values, it goes from 1 to 0 to 2, 0, 1 to 0, 1. So let's put 1 here. 1 plus 3, that's 4. It's not even anywhere near. So this is not there. Now this one is the range. It ranges from minus 2 to plus 2. Sorry, so that's minus 1, 0, 1. And this one also doesn't fulfill the condition. Let's not bother wasting time. It doesn't fulfill any condition. So basically the answer is A, and that's how you do it in inequalities. Just pick the answers, pick the options. Anyone that fulfills that condition is the answer. Now sometimes you might get some confusing questions. I'm going to pick a very simple question. Now this time I'm removing the inequality. If you are solving this, normally if you are solving this should come here, right? Then it becomes 2 minus 3, then it becomes x equals to, x is less than minus 1, isn't it? And in your options you have like A, x is greater than 1, B, x is less than minus 2, C, x is less than minus 1, D, x is greater than 0. You have options like this, and you are told to find the answer, and probably you are too lazy. Now this one is actually simple. It's something you can solve. There's some questions that might be very bulky, and at the end of the day the options are just like what you have here. It's actually mathematics. But questions, the answers might be very simple, something just like what we have in these options here. But then the question might be very, very bulky. If you have situations like that and you want to use the shortcut, that's what I'm trying to sort out here. We already know greater than 1 is like 2, 3, and the likes. And by the time you put 2 here, 2 plus that's 5 is not less than. So we already know this one is not even part. Now let's go to the next one. X is less than minus 2. So you can pick minus 4, minus 5. Since it's less than minus 2, you can pick them. So putting this into this option, minus 4, putting minus 4 here, minus 4 plus 3, that's okay. This is minus 1, and minus 1 is definitely less than 2, but we cannot be so sure. That's actually what I want to point out. You cannot just say you pick this one and go. We can't be so sure, and the reason is because sometimes two conditions can satisfy your inequality. Two conditions can, especially if you see in the options that you have numbers that are in close range, like you see x is less than minus 2, x is less than minus 1. These two can definitely fit into this condition. Some of them might fit into this condition. Some of them will definitely fit into the condition. So how do you know which is the answer between these two? Because they are very close on the line. This is minus 1, this is minus 2. Less than minus 2, less than 1. You can see that they have common boundaries. Now how do you know which is the answer between these two? It is very simple. The one that is actually higher on the timeline, how would I put it? The one that is actually higher in the timeline is the answer. I don't know how to put it that you guys would understand me. Like now you see that this is minus 2. If you pick any range of values here, okay, this is the best. You can find x less than minus 2 inside x less than minus 1, isn't it? You can find it in it, because it goes like minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, and like so. You can find x less than minus 2 even inside x less than minus 1. So the answer is definitely x less than minus 1. I don't know if that clears the air, but that's just how you do it. Now let's go to the last question before we call it a tutorial. Okay, now this is a question on inequalities, and I've already explained how inequalities are being solved. Now we want to understand how to do it in the short way. Okay, well, basically this is actually simple. It's still the same idea. Anything that satisfies this condition of being less than 0 is the answer. That's just everything you need. So you might want to break this down into something better, like x plus something, x minus something. Fine. You don't really need to disturb yourself breaking anything down. If you can solve, if this one won't confuse you, then you're good to go. So let's pick x is greater than 3. That's like 4, 5. 4, put 4 square minus 4 minus 6. This is 16 minus 4 minus 6. This is 16 minus 10. This is 6, which is not. So to the next, less than minus 2. You are talking of minus 3, minus 4, and the like. So let's put minus 3. Minus 3 square minus 3 minus 3 minus 6. This is 3 times 3, 9, isn't it? Plus 3. Oh, this is not, is not less than, because what I'm seeing here will give greater than 0. So this is not the answer. Now let's go to this. This one is actually in range. It means it is x is greater than minus 2, x is less than 3, isn't it? So x is greater than minus 2. That are talking of minus 1, 0, 1, 2, and it must be less than 3. So these are the range of values that fits into this place. So you just need to pick one or two from them. You don't have to do everything. So let's pick minus 1. Minus 1 square minus 1 square minus 1 square minus 1 minus 6. Now let's see if it is less than 0. This is minus 1 square is 1. This is plus 1 minus 6. This is 2 minus 6. This is minus, yeah, and it's definitely less than 0. This is minus 4. It's less than 0. Okay, let's just pick another one just to be sure. And I would advise that you always pick the two extremes. Minus 1. Now let's pick this other extreme, which is 2. 2 square minus 2 minus 6. This is 4. This is 4, and this is minus 2 minus 6. 4 minus 2 is 2 minus 6 minus 4. So still minus 4. Still minus, which is definitely, so we don't even need to go any further. This is definitely the answer. This is definitely the answer. So that's just how to do the shortcuts for inequalities. All you need to do is find what satisfies the condition. And now some of you might have a question like, what if you have something like this: x less than 3 maybe all over 4, x plus 3 sorry, all over 4 less than x minus 2 all over 5. Now if you have something like this, and though this one is actually straightforward, it's something you can solve. Cross multiply 5x plus 3, and remember that you need to be careful about the inequality sign. Then you solve it. But what if the question is too bulky, or probably you don't have time, you just want to pick the options and just pick the options and go to the next. To do something like this, you do it for both sides since x is on both sides. So let's assume okay, let's assume the first one of the options is 1. So put 1 here. 1 plus 3 over 4, which is 4 over 4, which is 1, less than, you also put the same 1 here. 1 minus 2 over 5, and that's minus 1 over 5. So you will now confirm. Now see, is 1 less than minus 1 over 5? It is not. So then you go to the next and see anyone that fulfills the condition on both sides is the answer. So that's how to do it when you have x on both sides. We've come to the end of this tutorial. If you enjoy this, please like it, comment, and share with your friends. Exam is coming, test is coming. Help somebody by sharing this material with them, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because this channel will definitely help your life, especially if you're an agric student. It will help your life from 100 to 500 level. Take care of yourself and remain on last in the faith, and happy new year to you guys. Ciao.